you do a lot of relocations. You help people who are coming into the city, and they must find that there is different architecture here than in other parts of the country.
That's true. The craftsman style is probably the most popular compared to what they might find in other parts of the country. But
Lack
of course,
stucco.
Yeah, and the popular split level.
And so when you start looking at maybe, I guess, the time frame that these houses were built, I mean, I guess Seattle is a little bit unique just in the time that, well, Seattle was developed, really.
Exactly.
And so you start getting into these, I guess you would call them mid-century homes. Tell us a little bit about a mid-century home.
A mid-century home was basically built probably between the ranges of 1945 to 1965. And so
Mid-last century.
Mid-century.
It's clever.
And obviously Seattle is a newer city, and so there's more common design of that in this area.
And so is it really just pertain to the years it was built, or is there a structural, architectural, I guess, flavor to it?
There's totally an architectural flavor, which is the part of that I like so much about it. The post-war era brought where people wanted to live closer to works, closer to shopping, and so the designs are very different than what they had been, and they're very open, clean lines, uncomplicated. Storage is, used because all the houses before that, the closets were tiny, and so the spaces are much larger. The windows got bigger. The house would flow out to the, outside. They wanted to bring the outside in, increase your living space. So the design just lent itself towards that era of the change of time.
Mm-hmm. And so are there different types of mid-century homes? I mean, I guess I've heard mid-century and mid-century modern.
Yeah.
When you talk about bringing the outside in, bigger windows, I just think of a house that was built today.
No. A good graphic might be that a mid-century home would be the Cleavers. Shows my age. Think of Wally and Beaver. That's a mid-century
I'm trying.
home.
I just think black and white.
That's black and white.
Yeah.
And mid-century modern would be the Jetsons. So the lines are still clean, and the appearance is hip and cool.
Didn't the Jetsons live in a Space Needle?
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that comes into the furnishings, the light fixtures. All of the designs have that same clean lines that the mid-century modern look gave it, which is what everybody likes right now.
The Jetsons kind of have that. It's that almost very 60s feeling type of look.
Yeah. And it's you'll see a lot today where people are trying to replicate that exact same look in the design of what's happening in furniture and light fixtures and home regard. People really like that style. It's very popular right now.
Yeah. Well, the Jetsons lived in a Space Needle, which, of course, you can't buy. Well, I guess you actually can buy it. It's privately owned. But you probably can't live there. So outside of the Space Needle, where are you more likely to find some of these types of homes in Seattle?
Well, as the city grew, I always describe when I'm telling people where you can find these types of homes is it's pretty logical. If you dropped a pebble in the middle of the city when the early settlers came here, as growth happened, that's
the early settlers of the 60s?
The early Seattle settlers. The downtown Pioneer Square is old and brick, and then it grew out. And so when you get into in the North Seattle area where I live and work quite a bit, about in the 60s areas, 60th Street towards Northgate Mall, you'll find a lot. In West Seattle, growth was happening then. On the east side, Seattle, Bellevue was completely growing at that time. So a lot of mid-century homes are over here on the east side. And Magnolia. So there's certain neighborhoods, but you can just kind of see if you did an area search and plugged in homes from that area.
Concentric circles kind of from the core of the city.
You can kind of figure out where they're going to be. So pretty logical.
You obviously have a passion towards this type of house. Is there something in particular that drew you to this style of house? Maybe you're just a big Jetsons fan. I don't know.
No, it's more than the Jetsons. I'm a baby boomer, and I'm was a child of the 1950s, and I live in a 1951 house. I like the architecture, and I realized as I was doing real estate, the more I was showing properties, that house really excited me when I would go in. They might not like the two-tone, bathroom colors that were, fluorescent purple and, pink or whatever. But I thought those were totally cool, having the two-tone.
Sure.
Most of them want to yank those kind of want to remodel that, and I'm like, no, leave it.
It tears at your heart when somebody goes in and goes, we're painting that bathroom first thing.
The best thing is to leave the tile and do whatever else you want to with it, but leave that tile.
So really, you just like them.
I like them, and I like the functionality of them. Living in one, they're full of closets, the nooks and crannies. They use every little space. You get a lot of storage. So they're really sturdy, too. They're little tanks is how I refer to them. They're just really well-built houses compared to, as I think in time, the construction maybe got a little weaker. But these are just really sturdy little houses. I don't feel like I'm going to have any problems in my house,
So the house is sturdy, and we've actually discussed a little bit on our show in the past just about the materials that went into these. The older growth wood, oftentimes, they actually are sturdier. Are there other draws or drawbacks of this style of home?
A lot of because of oil, for example, was a primary heating source. So a lot of folks would buy a house that have oil and don't want maybe a house with oil. They don't want to deal with that. That's a hot topic.
Can you still actually have the oil truck come and?
I just went through this process in the last 5 weeks to personally experience it, and I decided to take my tank out instead of decommissioning it, which most people do. And so I just blogged about that because it was an interesting process.
Can somebody actually, if they have their oil tank out there, is there still an oil truck that will come and put oil in your tank?
Yeah, oil tanks come on a regular. You don't even have to call them. They just come around and fill it up on a regular basis. And Washington State has a wonderful policy with an insurance that the oil companies pay for. So when you take your tank out and haven't contaminated ground, usually a claim is made with the PILA insurance, it's called, and they will come and it's all of that was paid for, like in my house.
Yeah, I mean, so that really must be a pretty standard upgrade then that people are trying to make. I mean, as nice as the oil truck sounds coming to your house, however often it's kind of like gone the way of the milkman.
Exactly, the same situation, and a lot of the I think most people try to like the open floor plans that are in this design, and everyone's wanting not choppy rooms. And so the design of a mid-century home usually is a very open floor plan, which is desirable right now. So that's a huge draw as well.
Almost like created the great room before it was called the great room.
Exactly. They were ahead of their times.
Yeah. Roger Morris joins us with Coldwell Banker Bain and Mr. Rogers at neighborhood.net. Roger, are there any other big renovations that people make that you see?
Obviously, lots of people don't agree with me on my love for the tile. So usually bathrooms and bedrooms, kitchens, are remodeled.
Is it like the black and white tile?
Exactly. Like It's very, very popular to have two tones. Yeah. And green and pink are together, or weird colors. And so that's usually the first thing people do. And because maybe the spaces aren't as big as they want, they might take out a bedroom to add it to make the kitchen larger or something like that. So that's the most common thing that probably happens in the design.